So people have a lot of questions. What really happened with Snow White?
Disney's Snow White remake didn't just flop. It got completely wiped off the map, pulled from theaters, buried by controversy, and mocked by Brett Cooper. This disaster is unlike anything we've seen before.
After a long wait, Disney's new Snow White finally came out last week, and to put it mildly, my friends, this has been a colossal mess.
From Rachel Zegler's comments to Disney's failed damage control, this film went from a fairy tale revival to an industry-wide embarrassment. But why did it fail so spectacularly? Let's break it down.
Like, I literally found myself feeling bad for them at times, that just shows you how terrible this has been. It is financially crumbling, financially failing. The reviews are genuinely horrible.
Disney's Snow White remake was doomed before it even hit theaters. And it all started with one of the most controversial casting decisions in recent history.
And new controversies surrounding the production, surrounding the actresses in the film are literally popping up every single day. They cannot outrun the curse.
The second Disney announced Rachel Zegler as the new Snow White, the internet erupted. Traditionally, Snow White is depicted as a fair-skinned, raven-haired princess, literally named for her skin as white as snow. Zegler, a Latina actress, didn't fit that description, and for many fans, it felt like Disney was altering an iconic character for the sake of diversity rather than staying true to the original.
Is there one reason why this actually flopped? Was it because of politics and wokeness? Was this another woke flop, or was it simply just a terrible film that nobody wanted from the beginning?
Immediately, hashtags like "Oh, not my Snow White" started trending, with frustrated fans calling out Disney for pushing forced representation instead of creating original roles for diverse actors. Zegler didn't help the situation. Her dismissive attitude toward the original movie only made things worse. She called the 1937 classic outdated, and even mocked Prince Charming as a stalker. This wasn't just a case of casting controversy, it was a PR disaster.
So I know that we all want to talk about this Snow White, but I know that there is also another Snow White that I think you guys want me to talk about.
As if the backlash over Zegler wasn't enough, Disney's next move stirred up even more controversy. Peter Dinklage, best known for Game of Thrones, slammed Disney for including dwarfs in the story at all, calling it backward and reinforcing outdated stereotypes. Instead of standing by the original concept, Disney panicked. Their solution? Replace the dwarfs with random, magical creatures, a decision that confused audiences even more.
Unfortunately, the only thing I can really say is that that is not my story to tell.
But here's the irony. The actual dwarf community was divided. Many actors with dwarfism wanted to be in the film and saw it as a rare opportunity for representation. Others supported Dinklage, arguing that the story itself needed to be reworked. Either way, Disney had managed to alienate almost everyone.
If you are somebody who, has a lot of publicity around you and your name's attached to a project, that means that you have a ton of control or a ton of intel, but usually that is not the case. Unless you are, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively with all of their films, apparently.
Rather than building excitement, Disney's Snow White started off as a full-blown controversy magnet. The backlash was relentless, with fans already fed up before the first trailer even dropped. And if you thought the casting drama was bad, wait until you hear about the production nightmare that followed.
You don't get to dictate anything. You don't get to dictate if a film actually happens. You don't get to dictate when it is shot, how it is shot, if you can ever speak about it to the public. You are simply just there to show up and say your lines and look the way they want you to look.
If the casting wasn't enough to sink Snow White, the production chaos almost guaranteed it. Because from start to finish, this film was an absolute disaster behind the scenes.
Kind of seems like maybe this path that I'm taking right now is the path that Rachel Zegler should have taken instead of just running her mouth for the last 3 years, which we are going to get into now.
Just as filming was set to ramp up, the entire industry came to a screeching halt. The writers' and actors' strikes hit hard, freezing production and driving up the budget by tens of millions. Suddenly, a film that was already under fire for its casting was now bleeding money.
This has been going on since 2022, since September of 2022. That is when this all first exploded.
Disney had no choice but to push the release date again and again. Fans were already skeptical, and these delays only added fuel to the fire. Every new announcement just made people ask one thing: is this movie even going to be worth it? Spoiler, it wasn't.
Rachel Zegler, her comments first exploded on the scene about Snow White back at the Disney D23 Expo. The clips went viral of her saying, "Snow White doesn't need a man, she's not gonna fall for the prince."
Behind the scenes, it was chaos. Insiders reported constant script rewrites, some happening just days before filming. Key scenes were reshot, entire subplots were changed or removed, and there were even rumors of Disney stepping in to take creative control away from the director.
Have forgotten those clips, this is what I'm referring to.
No longer 1937.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can.
Tensions reportedly flared between the filmmakers and studio execs. One side wanted to keep it modern and progressive, while the other feared the backlash and wanted to stick closer to the classic fairy tale tone. The result? A confusing mess that tried to please everyone and satisfied no one.
I could be president one day. I hate men. I just want to be president. That screams Disney princess. Oh my god, I'm literally getting enraged. Once again, I feel like I'm back in 2022.
By the time filming wrapped, the project was already falling apart. But production drama was just the beginning. Because what happened after the cameras stopped rolling? That's where things really exploded.
Yeah, the entire film's about a love story. That's what the point of the film is, and I'm sorry that chivalry and a man pursuing you is now deemed as stalking.
So production was a mess, but it was nothing compared to what happened when Rachel Zegler started making headlines.
There is just so much to unpack here. Like, the most iconic Disney role ever. I feel like you should kind of have some sort of reverence for the original production, for what it meant.
If Disney wanted Snow White to feel fresh and relevant, they picked the wrong spokesperson to lead that charge. Because Rachel Zegler, the face of the film, quickly became its biggest liability, and not because of her acting, but because of her mouth.
She is not Caucasian. She is a Latina. She is half Colombian. And so people were like, why were you cast in the first place? We just had a black Little Mermaid. Now we're having a Latina Snow White, and she's literally called Snow White. This doesn't make sense. So that was happening.
Zegler didn't just distance herself from the 1937 classic. She practically disowned it. In interviews, she called the original outdated, regressive, and even creepy. She famously said, "Snow White doesn't need a prince to save her," which instantly went viral, but not in a good way.
Again, Rachel didn't even seem like she cared or liked the source material. I mean, that is just far from a graceful Disney princess-like promotion. It's far from what you would think Disney wanted.
Fans weren't upset that she wanted to modernize the character. They were upset because she spoke about the original with total disrespect. For millions of Disney fans, Snow White isn't just a character, it's childhood nostalgia. And Zegler's tone felt mocking, almost like she was embarrassed by the role she signed up for. Instead of winning people over, she alienated them. And once that clip started making rounds on TikTok and Twitter, Sara to Fire Zegler and Not My Snow White started trending again. And then came the real controversy. Off-screen, Zegler's public support for Palestine during a volatile time drew massive attention. Meanwhile, her co-star Gal Gadot, an Israeli actress and former IDF soldier, has long supported Israel. Suddenly, Snow White wasn't just a movie. It was a geopolitical lightning rod. The awkward tension between the two actresses was visible in interviews, press junkets, and red carpet moments. Fans picked sides, and the film got caught in the middle of a culture war that Disney never wanted to be part of. Instead of promoting the film, Zegler became the face of the backlash. Her interviews were clipped, mocked, and memed to death. Every time she spoke, the internet found new reasons to avoid the movie. And for a film already drowning in controversy, this was the final blow. So after all this drama, did the movie at least perform well at the box office? Well, about that. Disney poured everything into Snow White, a massive budget, a global marketing push, months of hype, and yet, when the curtains opened on opening weekend, it bombed. Industry projections were hopeful. Analysts expected a $150 million global debut at minimum. Instead, the film limped across the $30 million mark in its first weekend. That's not just bad, that's catastrophic. For a company like Disney, which dominates box offices year after year, this kind of failure isn't just rare, it's a disaster. Theaters saw near-empty showings. International markets didn't save it either. The buzz was dead on arrival. First off, the controversies killed the hype. From Rachel Zegler's viral interviews to political drama to the backlash over casting, the film became toxic before it even premiered. Many families, especially longtime Disney fans, just stayed home. But there's a deeper issue too: remake fatigue. Disney has been churning out live-action versions of animated classics for years. And while some have worked, others have left. Fans wondering what's the point. Critics called Snow White bland, soulless, and even tone-deaf. Without a strong story, and with so much drama swirling around it, the movie never had a real chance. Multiple reports now confirm that Disney is staring at a loss of at least $115 million from this project. That's after all the production, reshoots, rebranding, and global marketing. It's one of the biggest live-action flops in Disney's modern history. But beyond just the money, what do Hollywood insiders think about this failure? Snow White didn't just flop at the box office, it sent shockwaves through Hollywood. Right out of the gate, critics weren't kind, not just about the film itself, but about why it failed. Many slammed Disney for focusing more on messaging than storytelling. They argued that the movie felt more like a political statement than an actual fairy tale. Some reviewers even questioned if Disney had forgotten what made its classics timeless in the first place: heart, simplicity, and escapism. The consensus? Disney tried too hard to modernize something that didn't need fixing, and the industry took note. Behind the scenes, rival studios are reportedly hitting the brakes on similar live-action remakes. Snow White's failure has become a cautionary tale. Spend too much time rewriting the past, and you might just erase your future. The fans weren't any more forgiving. Across social media, longtime Disney lovers voiced frustration, not just about this film, but about the bigger pattern. Remake after remake, none living up to the originals. People are asking, where's the magic? Where's the originality? And, most importantly, is Disney even listening? Right now, public trust in Disney's creative direction is at an all-time low. Many are hoping the company finally wakes up and changes course. So, what does this mean for Disney's future? Snow White didn't fail for just one reason. It was a perfect storm of controversial casting, chaotic production, weak marketing, and a fan base that felt completely unheard. If Disney wants to turn things around, they'll need to start listening. Audiences don't just want diversity, they want depth. They don't want reboots, they want real stories. So here's the big question: can Disney recover from this? Or is this the beginning of the end for their live-action era? Let us know what you think.